this video we're going to look at a very specific kind of staff development, apprenticeships. Importantly though, we will analyse the advantages and the disadvantages to a business of deciding to take on an apprentice. You might have heard the term an apprenticeship used before. You may even be thinking about doing an apprenticeship yourself. So before we go any further and look carefully at the impact on a business of an apprenticeship, let's start by understanding what an apprenticeship even is. An apprenticeship is a paid job which combines employment and training and is available to anybody entitled to work in the UK. Some people think that apprenticeships are only available to school leavers or to young people, but these days apprenticeships are available to anybody over the age of 16 who is not in full-time education. An apprenticeship is a government recognised programme that combines practical, on-the-job and off-the-job training with study at college. The idea is that the apprentice will learn the skills that they need to do a particular job, and they will also receive a nationally recognised qualification on the completion of their apprenticeship. An apprentice is an employee, so all apprentices receive a wage. They must be paid at least the national minimum wage, which is set for apprentices specifically, and they will work alongside other employees to learn their trade. However, they do have to spend 20% of their working time, usually 1 day a week, on studying, often at college or maybe at a university. Apprentices also have the same legal rights as other types of employee. There are apprenticeships available to cover a huge range of occupations and sectors, including digital media, trades such as building, plumbing and electrics, accounting, human resources and cybersecurity. The list goes on and on and on. To all the teachers out there, show all of these videos without any ads and gain access to our growing library of over 500 teaching worksheets. Why not visit BizzWizard.co.uk to find out more? So now let's meet our main character for this video, Ollie Clark, who has just started an apprenticeship as an electrician in Lincolnshire after just leaving school with 5 GCSEs. Ollie talked to his career advisor at the school about the best way to become an electrician, and she recommended that he should look into apprenticeships as he could start earning straight away, he'd be guaranteed to get the training that he needed, and he'd get a formal qualification at the end of it. She explained that it's a great way to gain the knowledge and experience required to become an electrician. Having given it some thought, Ollie quite liked the idea of combining study but also just getting stuck into the job. So he found a local electrician firm called Spalding Sparkies that was looking to take on an apprentice. He applied for this position and he was really pleased when he was offered the apprenticeship with them. When Ollie started his job as an apprentice electrician, he was given a mentor, Fred, who is a very experienced electrician. Fred is responsible for showing Ollie how to do the tasks that he needs to learn, making sure he works in a safe way and answering any questions that Ollie has. Ollie spends 1 day a week, 20% of his working time at the local college, studying for his qualification. Ollie goes out with Fred on jobs and sometimes does some of the simpler tasks under supervision to build up his knowledge and his confidence. So far, Fred is really pleased with Ollie's progress. He's a quick learner and he always asks lots of questions, especially if he's not sure about something. Spalding Sparkies did have another apprentice just a couple of years ago, but they weren't quite as hard-working or conscientious as Ollie is. And sadly, this previous apprentice did make a lot of mistakes, they were very rude to customers, and this didn't do the business's reputation much good. Since then, they've now tightened up the recruitment process and they make sure that every apprentice has a proper mentor, just like Ollie does with Fred. Bring this video and over 100 more to life with fun, interactive games, quizzes and case studies. Why not try the first 25 completely free by visiting BizzWizard.co.uk. Let's have a look at some of the advantages and disadvantages to a business like Spalding Sparkies of taking on an apprentice, starting with the advantages. One of the reasons that Spalding Sparkies like to take on an apprentice electrician is that they can train them to their own standards. Their apprentices all have an expert mentor like Fred, who has very high standards when it comes to their electrical skills, working safely, and delivering first-class customer service to their customers. These mentors, just like Fred, can train apprentices to meet the company's specific requirements. It's also a great way for them to develop the skills and expertise that they need in their business, both now and even in the future. Another advantage to Spalding Sparkies of taking on an apprentice is that their apprentices will also be studying for a nationally recognised qualification during their apprenticeship programme, and this will mean that they will have the theoretical knowledge to back up their practical experience that they've learned while doing the job. Finally, taking on an apprentice who is working and studying can be very cost effective for a business, especially as most of the cost of the training is actually paid for by the government. These apprentices are still doing actual work, and they're being trained at the same time. Each of the video courses over at BizzWizard.co.uk also includes an interactive business case study that applies the knowledge learnt to a real-world scenario. There are over 1,000 multiple-choice questions, each with detailed feedback, which tests students' understanding of the content. Why not visit BizzWizard.co.uk to find out more? Now, let's look at some of the potential disadvantages to Spalding Sparkies of taking on apprentices. As apprentices are learning the ropes, they will need a lot of supervision from a more experienced member of staff like Fred, and this can be very time-consuming and may be disruptive to the person who is supervising the apprentice. It can also be very disruptive having an employee who is away from their day-to-day job for 20% of the time, and Spalding Sparkies have to plan very carefully around all his study days at college. Sometimes apprentices will make mistakes, particularly if they are not trained or supervised closely enough, and this can harm the business's reputation. This happened with one of the previous apprentice electricians at Spalding Sparkies, who, as I mentioned, was rude to a customer and went on to leave a negative review because of this incident. Although businesses receive a contribution from the government towards the cost of training their apprentices, they still have to be paid a wage, including the time that they are at college, rather than working for the business. And in many businesses, there is no guaranteed job at the end of an apprenticeship, which can mean that the apprentice is demotivated and not as committed to their role as they might be if they knew they were definitely going to be getting a job. Fortunately, Spalding Sparkies do plan to take on Ollie as a permanent employee after the end of his apprenticeship if he keeps progressing so well. As we've seen, apprenticeships are an exciting option for both the apprentice like Ollie and the employer like Spalding Sparkies. A business can employ apprentices at different levels, from school leavers and university graduates to people who want to further their careers or change career direction completely. If you get a question in the exam about apprenticeships, make sure that you can explain what an apprenticeship is and what the main features of apprenticeships are. Most importantly though, remember to explain the advantages and disadvantages of the apprenticeship from the point of view of the business that is employing the apprentices and the impact that this decision may have. This has been the BizzWizard. See you in the next video.